Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Steven, and after a very long break that I took since my last video, I decided to just finally come back and introduce you to some more action figure collections that I have out there. Long time back, last year, I have done several videos on the topic of Marvel Hero Titans, the 12-inch figures, and if you look at my channel you will find at least two to three videos on that subject based on the figures that came out back then. But in today's video I'm just going to talk to you about the new group of Titans I got since those days, and there is quite a number of them and some variants. Anyway, let's get the show started and see what we got here today. We will start with one of the bad guys. What we have here is the Ultron Marvel Hero Titan. This is a variant of an already existing figure, and the main difference between them is the packaging and the color of the mouth and the eyes. I cannot be seen very well, but anyway, the color of eyes and mouth on this particular one are bright green, while on the variant, who looks pretty much exactly the same, would be red. The eyes and the mouth are red, and as you can tell they look identical. The articulation is in the older version, which is this one on the left, is that you can put arms 360 degrees, you can put the legs forward and backward, and he can turn the head a little bit only because it's screwed in very tight. Now the other one, the variant here on the right, can pretty much do the same. So 360 degrees for the arms, and the legs go forward and they go backward, and the same thing goes for the head. You can turn just a little bit more than the older version, but it's still quite tight, so I wouldn't force it because then it would just break, I think, because as you can tell by the sound of it, the plastic is quite hollow. So anyway, that would be the newest version of Ultron, or the repaint, and the older version, side by side. Then we move on to AntMan, who was introduced in his own movie, and he also had an appearance in the Captain America Civil War, and he can also transform into Giant Man, but that figure is out there and I didn't manage to get one yet. So anyway, this is how Ant-Man looks like, more to his look from the comics, not from the movie. And he has quite a bulky helmet, and his costume is red and black, and his arms can move 360 degrees, like most of them, same thing. The head can move also left to right, quite a bit more than the Ultron, let's say. And the legs can also go forward, but unfortunately in this case he cannot move the leg backward, only forward, at least in the case of Ant-Man here. He was released as a deluxe figure, and he was released as a single regular figure without the accessories, which is what I have here. And before him there was the movie-based Ant-Man, which is this one on the left here. He has different color of the costume, and he's based on the movies. He could also move his arms 360 degrees, legs could go forward but cannot go backward. So these two are two different versions of the Ant-Man. The one on the right is closely based on comics, and the one on the left is based on the movies. So they are two different versions of the same character. Then next we have Thor. Now, if any of you saw my older videos, you have already seen me talk about this Thor. He came long time ago, about 2 to 3 years ago. But the reason why I'm showing him today is to show you how the old version looks like, and how the new version, which just came into the stores, in my part here, looks like. Now, the new one is this one on the left. And what's the difference between them? The one on the right is based on comics and cartoons, And the one on the left here is based on the movies. Now, why do I say he's based on the movies? For one thing, he's trying to replicate the face of the actor Chris Hemsworth, and he's wearing a helmet, which Thor in the movies did not do a lot, except in Thor Part 1. But this is supposed to be the movie version of Thor. Brand new, just came out. He does not come with any cape. He does come with the hammer, and he can lift his arm and rotate it 360 degrees. He can move the legs forward, but he cannot move them backward. However, he can do something that, to compensate the fact he cannot move the leg backward, he can do something that the older version of Thor cannot do. He can do a split. So he can literally put his legs into a split, like so. That's an improvement in the latest Titan figures, that most of them can do the split. I will tell you which ones from the ones I have can do this. So Thor is one of them, this new version of Thor. He can do a split. Other than that, both figures look pretty good, and it's just to your preference if you like to have both, or you like to just have a cartoon version or the movie version. But as far as I'm concerned, they both look great. I do wish that the new version had the cape, but it's just a minor complaint. So that would be that for Thor. Now on to the next figure, and for this one I do not have any variants. This would be Black Panther. Black Panther was again introduced as a character in Captain America Civil War, and he was on the side of Iron Man. Black Panther here is the regular version. There is a deluxe version that comes with some extra accessories. This one doesn't. And he can move his arms up and down, which many of the older versions of Titans couldn't do. So he can. And just like Thor, he can also do the split. And he can move his leg forward this much, at least in mine, and he cannot move it backwards. So I think the split of the leg replaced the fact that he cannot move the leg backwards anymore. And this was an additional improvement, that the arms can go up and down and not just rotate. And the final thing is the head, left and right, but it's still quite tight, at least in this case. So that will be the Black Panther, one of the good guys. Now we have a figure from last year. This would be Vision. Again, he showed up in the he showed up in Captain America Civil War, and he also showed up in Avengers Age of Ultron. So he comes with a cloth cape, no weapons of any sort, and this is more how he would look in the comics and in the cartoon. And he can move his arms up, not so much rotate, due to the fact that the arms are quite tight on mine. And he can move leg this much forward and that much backward. Since this is the old style of Titans, he cannot do the split and his arms cannot be raised. So that's Vision. Next in line we have Bucky, the sidekick of Captain America, also known as Bucky Barnes by his real name. He showed up in Captain America movies and Captain America 1, 2, and 3. He was, in a way, cause of the Civil War in Part 3 between the heroes. So he can do arms raised, like so. He does not come with any weapons, which he should have, at least a machine gun or something, but he doesn't come with none. No accessories. He has the little star on his shoulder, if you can see it. That star represents the fact that he was raised by communists to be a trained assassin for him in the Soviet Russia. At least according to comics, they changed the story somewhat, to some extent, changed it a little bit in the movie. So he can also do the split, and as I said, the arms can be raised, can rotate, and the head can again go very little left and right, and that would be Bucky. Now we have one of the bad guys called Crossbones. He showed up in Captain America 2, how he looked as a mercenary before he became Crossbones, and then in part 3 he shows up as a changed man, a hired assassin called Crossbones. And what's important about him, in the comic books version of Civil War in Marvel Universe, he was the one who was hired to assassinate successfully Captain America, and he did murder him. So this would be pretty much his looks, the way he would look in the comics and in the cartoon. But the looks of him in the Captain America 3 is very close to what you see here. Unfortunately, again, he was supposed to come with some guns, but again, he doesn't come with none. So he's just a figure in a box. He can do arms up, the usual movement of the arms, 360 degrees. He can raise his leg this much, and he can do the split as well. He cannot move the legs backwards, which we already talked about, and then the head can move left and right. So that would be one of the bad guys, Crossbones. Now we have the one and only female done in Marvel Hero Titans for the moment, and that would be Black Widow. Now this particular Black Widow is not based on the movie, and I'm not really sure that she's based on comics either, unless this is some kind of a new costume. But they do capture her likeness very well. She comes with her gauntlets, that she wears them around the wrist here, on both sides, which she usually uses them as weapons by firing bullets from them. And her head cannot move a lot, just a bit, due to the fact that the hair is sculpted right across the shoulders, and it kind of impedes a bit the movement of the head, only because of that. Now, the arms can raise up and go 360 degrees, but they cannot be raised upwards. Not on this one, anyway. The legs can go forward, about that much. She cannot do it backwards, but she cannot do the split either. So this is one of the figures, one of the few figures that is unable to move the legs backwards, and she cannot do the split either, so she can only move them forward. She doesn't come with any weapons, which is again pretty sad, because her character usually carries handguns for weapons or a machine gun, but again, to be kid-friendly, she does not come with any weapons. She does come also with one more feature that I forgot to mention. That would be her belt that she has around the waist, which can be unbuckled and you can just remove it, but I'd rather leave it so that it doesn't get lost. It's such a small piece. So anyway, that would be Black Widow, the only female character that made it into the Titans so far. Hopefully there will be more. I would like to see She-Hulk and Wasp, who is the wife of AntMan / Giant Man, and I would like to see several other females make their debut in the Marvel Hero Titans, but only time will tell. Let's move on to the next figure in line that's new for me. Would be a very bulky, big size one. This is again Titans, but Spider-Man series Marvel Titans. And this is a bad guy, as you can tell. This is Rhino, one of the most classic and famous enemies of Spider-Man. Now, this Rhino right here is the only version made, but he's made as a deluxe figure due to the fact that he has a much bigger box than the rest, so he's about the same size box like Hulk, maybe a bit bigger. And he can move his arms up about this much. He has these huge shields that, if I believe, they should be attachable to the shoulders. These big pointy shoulder pads that are shaped like rhino horns. Has 3 horns on each side of the pad. And he does not come with any weapons because he doesn't really use any weapons. He's just a brute force by himself. He's using his mask shaped like a rhino. He's using it to attack enemies. And his arms can also move the fists, which are right here at the end. The fists can rotate left and right, which is again an improvement of a sort, because majority of the other figures cannot do that. And then the legs can move up this much. Cannot do the split, at least not on him they can. And he can move his legs backwards this much. So he's quite a massive figure in the context of Hulk about that size, although we all know that the Hulkbuster Iron Man is bigger than both of these guys. But anyway, he's one of the bulkier figures and also a deluxe figure. So that would be Rhino from Spider-Man Titans. And now the last figure, if you give me one sec here. Sorry. The last figure, as far as the Titans go, would be another classic enemy of Spider-Man, again from the Marvel Hero Titans, and this would be Vulture. Now, this is the original look of Vulture, a bad guy who has the powers to fly and use the wings as weapons. He has attachable wings that go clip-on both sides of the arms. And what's important about him is that he will be in the new Spider-Man movie coming out in 2017. He will be the main villain of the movie, and he does not look like this in the movie. This is the classic look. However, Marvel Hero Titans will be releasing that version of Vulture in the Titan size, the way he looks in the movie. You won't be able to see his face on that figure. I don't have it yet because it's not out yet. But he will have a green helmet that covers his whole face. And he will have wings and dark green mechanical suit. So he's able to fly pretty much just like his comic book cartoon counterpart here. But there will be some differences in looks. And what he can do, he can put his arms up to simulate the flying, which is a good thing because we want to pose him as a flying guy. And then he can move his legs up this much, and he cannot move it backwards because again this is one of those guys who cannot move it backwards due to the fact that instead of that he gets the improvement on being able to do a split instead, like so. And there is no, just to mention one more thing, there is no movement in the waist whatsoever. And none of the figures have the movement in the waist, and none of the figures have the movement in the elbows or the knees, so there is no movement there. And he can move the head also just a bit to the left and a bit to the right. And that's about it. He does not come with any accessories other than the wings that are that you attach, and that will be him. He will be, as I mentioned, coming out in a 12-inch form from the Titans this year, but as a part of a multi-pack containing Vulture based on the movie, Anti-Venom, and Carnage, who will be two characters that are based on the comics, and at least 2 or 3 versions of Spider-Man. Now that particular multi-pack will be only available at Target stores in the United States. I do not believe it will be available elsewhere, but it will be exclusive to Target. So that's about it. I guess we could just wrap it up now. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you like what you see. You can post any comments or ask any questions. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.